Hello, and welcome to my channel. Every person is born with different set of skills. Some people like working on machines, some people like cooking, while some others like painting. But what if you were born different? What if you were born to hunt? What if you were born to roam the wild and seek for your prey? This is a story of a man who became a killer, and he was very well known for his skill. But despite his flawless reputation, there was one job remained unfinished. How could he finish his job if his target was a man that cannot die? This story will be told from the first person point of view. This story begins now. No matter how old we are, there's always that one story in our lives that we could never forget. Now this is a story about me doing my job and how my last job became my greatest achievement ever. Now I know you might be asking, what kind of work do you do? Well, let's just say if you want someone to mysteriously disappear, then I can get it done for you. For the right price, of course. I was a contract killer for about 15 years. I have lost count of how many lives I took. I forgot their names, but I remember each of their faces. Too bad it will be of no use, because I will never see them again. I often came home with blood all over my clothes. Sometimes the smell of blood was too thick, so I had to burn everything. My work required me to have complete privacy, so I bought houses on major cities in the world. In these houses, I kept my clothes, guns, and buried a few dead bodies. Things were rough sometimes, and I often had to kill a few lawmen in the process. All in all, everything was perfect. Well, at least except one particular job that I always failed to do. For a contract killer, success rate is everything. It has to be 10 kills out of 10 jobs, or you're just a newbie like everyone else. My success rate was 99% and 1% pending. Yes, you heard it right. Not failed, but pending. Why? Because there was this guy that I've been trying to kill for 6 months, but no matter how hard I tried, the guy just kept coming back. There was just something about him that stopped him from dying. It all started with a simple contract. Someone wanted me to kill someone he knew, for personal reasons. I didn't ask any further. I was a hitman, not a reporter. My target was a 53-year-old man who's been running an antique store for 10 years. Half of his blonde hair had turned white, but his face looked younger than his age. For me, it was important to know everything about my target. But this guy was rather mysterious. He didn't have a family. There were no ex-wives and no children. I couldn't find any records mentioning him getting married. Hell, I couldn't even find out where he went to college. According to his neighbors, after his parents died, he moved here to Mark's main city and opened an antique shop. He was pretty good at it too. He lived alone at an apartment not far from his store. Now I can't say that I'm an expert on people, but I know that guys like him always have something to hide. I was stalking him for some time, studying the pattern of his daily life. This guy had his own schedule. Every 8:30 p.m., he would close up his shop and went home. He usually went home on foot. It was either he was maintaining his health, or he was just too stingy to buy his own car. Either way, it would be a perfect moment to eliminate him. One night, I decided to make my move. I was sitting at a coffee shop in front of his store waiting for him to go home. At exactly 8:30 p.m., I saw him locking the door and left. I left the coffee shop and followed him. I was keeping my distance behind him as I go. This guy may look old, but he walked like he was 25. He used to bring his golden walking cane, but he never really used it. After I was sure that the streets were empty, I began to walk faster. I positioned myself beside him, pulled my gun out of my jacket, and shot him at point-blank range. It was an easy headshot. I saw blood splatter on the wall as he fell to the ground. I left the place immediately. In most cases, it was a job well done. But little did I know, my job was far from over. The next day, I came back to the coffee shop in front of his store. I intend to call my contractor right after breakfast. But then, imagine my surprise, seeing him walking to his store. I almost spat out my coffee back then. I was certain that he didn't have any twin brothers, and I didn't see any bandages on his head either. Yes, I was sure I shot his head the night before, but I clearly saw him came back to work the next day. At that moment, I realized that he was no ordinary man. I guess now you understand why it was my most frustrating job ever. Imagine the feeling of successfully killing someone and then seeing him still alive the next day. Then I decided to use other ways to kill him. One night I pretended to be a robber and stabbed him about a dozen times. The next day I saw him at the front door of his store, flirting with one of his customers. I remember going to his store at broad daylight, pretending to be a customer. I waited for him to go to the bathroom and put poison in his glass of water. I saw him drink the water and fell to the ground, wriggling in pain, dying. The next day, I returned to his store. It was still open, and I saw him watching football on TV. I killed him at least 15 times already. I once used a sniper rifle and shot him right to the heart, but it didn't work. I even rented a car once and ran him over for 5 times, but he still came back the next day, smiling wide at everyone. No matter how hard I tried, he just won't die. I decided to make my one last try. If it should fail, then I would cancel the contract. I didn't care if it would cost me my reputation. I've been in this job for too long. I decided that I want to retire. This job has affected my sanity. I often woke up in the middle of the night, sitting up in my bed. My ears seemed to hear whispers in the dark, yet I knew that I was alone. As usual, I waited until he closed his store. I waited in an alley, waiting for him to walk past me. I then walked out of the alley, positioning myself behind him. Suddenly, he stopped walking. Then, he turned around with a smile on his face. He saw me standing behind him and shook his head slowly. "So, how are you going to do it tonight?" he said. I didn't expect him to recognize my face. For a hired killer, when your face is revealed, then it's mandatory for you to immediately dispose of your target. If not, then you will end up being a wanted criminal. When the authorities are on your tail, then your chance of survival is close to zero. I pulled out my knife and stabbed him on the chest, straight to the heart. He stumbled backward for a moment. I didn't waste the opportunity and pulled a gun from under my jacket. I pulled the trigger many times, filling his body with hot lead. My gun was silenced, and the streets were quiet, so I didn't have to worry about anyone seeing us. He fell on the ground like he always did, I didn't feel like I've won. Like I said, if this guy died easily, I wouldn't have hunted him for 6 whole months. I took a step back when I saw him getting up. Bullets were spat out of his body and fell to the ground. After that, he casually pulled the knife from his chest. "You've got guts, kid," he said. "I've lost count of how many people tried to kill me. They all stopped after the first try. But you're the first one who didn't stop trying." "You know about me?" I asked him. "Of course I know you," he said. "I saw your face when you came to my store. You think I didn't know that you were the one who put poison in my glass? I know that there were a couple of guys who tried to kill me in the past, but since you've shot me in the head and stabbed me in the chest, I think I have the right to know who wants me dead. Someone paid you, right? Tell me the name, and I'll reward you with something that's more valuable than money." I was silenced for a few moments. Not everyone gets a chance to chat with the person who died a few minutes ago. This person had a charisma that was different from most people. Then I mentioned the name, Mikronsky. Unexpectedly, he burst out laughing. "Mikronsky? That old fool? I never thought he'd be stupid enough to pay someone to kill me. You know why I was able to live again after you killed me so many times? It's because of this cane." He raised his walking cane at me. "I've lived a very long life. If your great-great-grandfather was alive, I would still be older than him. I found this in one of the nameless islands near the Bermuda Triangle. Don't ask me how I got it, but it gave me an everlasting life. No guns, no disease, nor anything could end my life. I'm betting Mikronsky knew something about my cane, and he thought that the cane would make him young again. Well, I'm not giving this to him. But you, young man, I'm willing to give this to you, if you would kill Mikronsky for me." Then I remember a small detail about my assignment. My employer specifically told me to retrieve a golden walking cane that belonged to my target. It was kind of strange, because I've never received such a request before. Usually they just ask me to kill the target, nothing more. If you wanted the walking cane, then there must be something special about it. "So that's it? I kill him, and you give me the cane?" I asked him. He nodded, and so, just like that, I received a new contract. That night, I went back to my employer's house. He was surprised to see me. That friggin' old man has sent me on a fool's errand for months. He knew about the golden walking cane, but he didn't say a word. "I knew there was something off about his youth," said Mikronsky. "I've known him for years, and he doesn't age one bit. I realized that he's always carrying that stupid walking cane of his. I thought it was silly at first, but when I found out about the cane's power, I knew that it would be my last hope to fight my lung cancer. As for you, boy, I couldn't care less if you succeed or not. If you should fail, then I would find another man to take the cane from him." His words pissed me off. My previous employers were no saints, but at least they knew a thing or two about respect. I pulled my gun out, pulled a double tap on him, and left the building ASAP. I didn't need to worry about my face being exposed. I shot all the cameras before I entered his house. I came back to the old man's shop the next day. He was sitting behind the register, waiting for me. His walking cane was lying on the counter. "You can take the cane," he said. "Aren't you going to check on Mikronsky?" I asked him. He shook his head. "No need. I know that you're good at your job. The fact that you killed me more than a dozen times is a solid proof of it. Take it. It's yours. I walked to the counter and took the cane. Suddenly the cane changed color, from gold to blue in a matter of seconds. It has accepted you as its new master, said the old man. Congratulations. Right then, the old man looked a little different. His face changed a little bit. I saw wrinkles appearing on his face. His face suddenly became a lot older. So that's it? Now I'm like immortal? I asked him. I don't know about immortal, but you will live longer and will be very hard to kill. He smiled, which made his face older than already is. I wanted to reach my gun and test a theory, but I cancelled my thought. There was no profit in it. If you want to kill me, then go ahead, said the old man. I grew tired of living. I've been wanting to die, but the cane won't let me. I couldn't just give the cane to someone else, because I'm afraid that he would go berserk and be the next Adolf Hitler or something. Why did you give it to me then? I asked him. You know what I do for a living, don't you? He nodded. Yes, but when I see your face, I see the face of a tired man. Your job isn't easy, and your soul has grown tired of it. You want to quit, don't you? Well, with the cane in your hand, now is the best time to do it. He was right about one thing. I was tired as hell. Maybe the idea of permanent retirement wasn't so bad after all. So, now I can go? With the cane? I asked him. Yes, you may go, he answered. And if one day you want to pass the cane to someone else, please find someone worthy of it. That day, I left the old man's store and began to enjoy life the way I wanted. I tried to test my newfound power by stabbing my hand, shot my own stomach, and even let a rattlesnake bit me on the neck. I know it sounds crazy, but the craziest part was, no matter what I did to myself, I couldn't stay dead. Then, I began traveling the world. I felt more brave compared to when I was an assassin. But no matter where I go, every time I came home from traveling, I always came back to the old man's antique shop. He was still there, as if waiting for me to tell my stories. During my visits, we would spend the afternoon drinking coffee at the coffee shop across the street. I don't know how much time he has left, but I don't care. With him, I can talk about pretty much anything. Right now, I have something that I didn't realize I always needed. Right now, I have a friend who is more valuable than money or eternal life. And that concludes our story. One can have wealth and power, but those things would be useless when they only make you feel alone. One can have many friends, but only a few of them that would really understand you. The rest are fake people who would only take advantage of you. Don't just make many friends, but try to make good friends. Your life will feel better if you are surrounded by those who appreciate and accept you for who you are. That is all for now. I will see you soon with another story. Thank you for watching.